Good evening, you're watching News Today at 9 p.m. I am Preeti Choudhry. While the protests rage on the streets of Kolkata, stunning visuals come in from Badlapur, Thane, Mumbai. That after citizens take to the streets in protest after the numbing incident coming in of rape of two 4-year-old toddlers, two little girls. We're going to get you more, but first up, taking you through the headlines. Maharashtra on the boil over the rape of two toddlers in a Thane school. Cops under scanner for delaying rape FIR. Chief Minister Shinde says no one will be spared. Supreme Court holds up Mamata government for mishandling Kolkata rape murder case. Questions cops for delay in filing FIR and tackling hospital mob rampage. The young 31-year-old junior doctor's father drops a big bombshell, says former principal of Arjikar Medical College was hiding something. Sandeep Ghosh grilled by the CBI for 5 straight days. 32 years later, big action in the 1992 Ajmer gang rape case. 6, including Ajmer Dargah Khadim, sentenced to life imprisonment for the gang rape and blackmail of over 100 young girls. After damning Hema panel report reveals dark underbelly of abuse in Malayalam cinema. Under fire, Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan says Hema panel recommendations will be considered. Big UPSC lateral entry U-turn. Government rolls back ad for 45 jobs. Sources say Prime Minister Modi wanted to promote inclusivity. Will seek suggestions from opposition parties next. Siddaramaiah versus Governor erupts in Karnataka. Chief Minister moves Lokayukt to seek Governor probe against HDK Kumaraswamy. DK Shiv Kumar says no evidence Siddu involved in scam. Pune Posha hit-and-run accused family seeks return of their luxury car. Claim teen accused already wrote 300-word essay and finished his rehabilitation. Torrential rains flood Tripura, several killed, thousands displaced after flash floods wreck Mehun. Rescue and relief operations underway. Our top focus is citizen anger, which is raging on the streets of West Bengal and now Maharashtra. Citizens on railway tracks. These are 2 splitting images of the day, viewers. One coming in from eastern Bengal, where doctors are now demanding justice for Abhaya 1 week running. The trainee doctor who was brutally raped and murdered at the Arjikar Medical Hospital in Kolkata. The other image comes in from Badlapur in Thane district of Maharashtra, where people blocked the railway line after 2 young 4-year-old toddlers, girls, were raped in their schools. The authorities delayed action, and it took a people's protest to wake up the Maharashtra police from its slumbers. Days on, no FIR was registered. And all this today, viewers, comes in together on a day that the Supreme Court stepped in to ensure safety for women at workplace. These 2 splitting images, viewers. The first one, the Mamata government, is now facing flack for the handling of the Kolkata rape and murder horror. The Chief Justice of India-led bench on the Supreme Court today hauled up the TMC government and the Bengal police for lapses in the probe, right from the delay in filing the FIR to the cops failing to stop the rampage at the Arjikar hospital on the 15th of August. Didi finds herself on the back foot while the demand for justice grows only but louder.
Until late night, we find that no FIR was raised.
That's also not correct.
The Supreme Court's hard-hitting observation against Kolkata horror. The Supreme Court questioned the unexplained delays by Mamata government. Kolkata rape victim's body found at 7:30 a.m. Sent for post-mortem between 1 to 4 p.m. Handed over for cremation at around 8:30 p.m. But FIR was filed at 11:45 p.m. The Supreme Court came down heavily on Mamata government and Kolkata police and questioned the delay.
crime was detected in the early hours of the morning.
Yes.
No, in the evening.
After the crime was detected in the early hours of the morning, the principal of the hospital tries to pass this off as a suicide.
Not true. Not
Her
true.
parents are not allowed to see the body. The parents are not allowed to see the body for almost.
No, Malad, I'm sorry. Anyway, Malad, this is the impression.
Our investigation
We'll have to place the facts before your lordships. We have investigated that. This is not correct.
So
Let us read the order.
until late night, we find that no FIR was raised.
That's also not correct.
The CJI also blasted Kolkata police for not protecting the crime scene and allowing a large armed mob to run riot near the crime scene.
What are they doing?
Nothing.
Allow vandals to enter the hospital.
It's impossible that 7,000 people can gather without the consent.
Please, 1 second.
Allow me.
7,000 people can never gather without knowledge or consent of the police.
This is not an adversarial litigation.
It's not. Therefore, let us not be in denial mode. One girl has lost life.
The CJI also expressed concerns over victims' identity being revealed.
Deeply concerned of the fact that the name of the deceased who was assaulted and murdered, the name has been published all over the media. Photographs have been published all over the media.
Correct.
Video clips, obviously, either before or after the postmortem, have been published.
Right.
Showing her body, after she was subjected to it. Extremely concerning.
The top court asked for the status report of the probe from the CBI on Thursday and asked Bengal government to furnish reply on hospital attack. The top court, taking note of atrocities happening on doctors, formed a national task force and reassured doctors that it will ensure their safety.
Setting up under the authority of this court a national task force. The national task force will consist of a diverse segment of doctors from different parts of the country. We want them to make us recommendations in regard to the modalities to be followed across India. We're not only talking of the Ajikar Medical College and Hospital, but modalities to be followed all over the country for ensuring safety at the workplace first and foremost.
With the matter now in top court, parents of the victim and doctors are hoping for justice. With Nalini Sharma, Shrishti Ojha and Kanu Sharda in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So viewers, that was the top court of the country taking suo motu cognizance of the Kolkata horror. But citizens' anger poured out not just in West Bengal, Kolkata, but also in Maharashtra. This is our top focus today. Women not safe at the workplace and young children not safe in schools. What should have been a very safe zone. Here is what happened now in Badlapur. Let's just take you through the timeline which led to these massive protests on the Badlapur railway station today. It all started on the August of 12th and August 13th. Two young children, one a 3-year-old and one a 4-year-old toddler, both young girls, were raped by the cleaning staff, the sweeper. On August 16th, the children revealed their horrors to their parents. They approached the police, the parents, to file a police complaint. And what does the police do? They don't file an FIR readily. Instead, they make the parents wait for over 12 hours. The FIR was finally filed late in the night after much pressure from local politicians. August 17th, the accused janitor is arrested and sent to police custody. August 19th, parents protest demanding further action. The woman cop who delayed filing of FIR is suspended. The principal of school and other staff also suspended. Today, widespread protest broke out in Badlapur. Hundreds blocked the railways for hours demanding justice. Then, just closer to 5 p.m., there was a lathi charge on these protesters to clear the railway track. This is what happened, viewers, in Badlapur, Thane, Maharashtra, and then, of course, of what happened or has been ensuing a week-long protest by doctors and the citizens, an organic protest by citizens in Kolkata. Women not safe at the workplace, young little girls as old as 3 or 4-year-old not safe in schools. Let's cut across to our panelists this evening. I have with me Meera Chadda Borwankar, former police commissioner, Lalita Kumara Mangalam, former NCW chairperson, Dr. Kalpana Nagpal, ENT surgeon, Talishwe, advocate, Supreme Court. I want to immediately cut across to Ms. Borwankar. Ms. Borwankar, two very separate incidents, but the spotlight on both the Kolkata police as well as the Badlapur police. The Kolkata police, the various, misses that the police made has been detailed immaculately today by the Supreme Court as well. On the other hand, the Badlapur police made the parents of these two young girls wait for over 12 hours to even register an FIR.
So the first case is now all over the country, and the protests were definitely organic, and it has shocked the country, as now today's news about Badlapur. So my emphasis would be that we have adequate laws. Implementation is where we are failing. Today, the Supreme Court has appointed another committee to look into doctors' security. Now, do you think schools are less important? My emphasis would be, one, let's implement security SOPs at field level. And instead of being top heavy with too many committees and commissions, implementation should be emphasized, and 51 million cases pending in the courts. If we have trial of all cases of molestation, sexual harassment, rape of women, and the trial finishes within a year, and the accused are punished not with only 30% of conviction rate, which we have today in India, you will not have Badlapur and Kolkata if the accused are ascertained that they will be convicted within a year.
You know, you talk about whether the accused will be convicted in a year. I'm going to get down to that in a short while from now, because what's appalling, viewers, today was also a day where one case saw the light of day 32 years after. Imagine a case which had happened in 1992 in Ajmer, and we're going to play those facts out in just a short while. Today, the POCSO court held the accused guilty. But Lalita Kumara Mangalam, I want to come down to you as well. What more, Lalita Kumara Mangalam, because one seems to be at their wits' end, because there's protests raging on, you've got committees after committees. It's not that you don't have laws. A capital punishment clearly hasn't proven to be a deterrent. We saw with what happened with Nirbhaya. What now needs to be done to actually ensure women are safe, not just at workplaces, but young girls, toddlers of 3 or 4-year-old in schools?
Yeah, I agree with the former police commissioner. She's right. The laws are there. What is not there is accountability and a time-bound solution, a procedure. Both the courts and the police need to be held, or rather everybody who's supposed to be in charge of giving justice to any victim, they need to be held accountable. State governments, etc. The problem is, and that we've seen, whether it is with what happened yesterday in Badlapur, and today in Badlapur in Maharashtra, or in Kolkata, or earlier in Delhi with Nirbhaya, or, every day we hear of rape cases. The problem is that the implementation is so poor. The police, the lower-down police, that is the police right to the grassroots, seem almost not bothered about this. Even the public, we protest for a while, and then we move on to the next rape. It's almost become like that. Now, sometimes I'm at a loss of words. I don't know what to say. But we need to look at the entire system. We also need to look at the way we ourselves as a country think of women. Where is the respect? There is no respect for women. Women are not safe anywhere. At home, at workplaces, in public transport, in public spaces, apart from when they travel. Where are they safe? In bathrooms, in schools, where are they safe? There has to be a very concerted and very united movement across the board. We cannot anymore afford to just say that the government is responsible or the police are responsible or some minister or some chief minister must resign. I mean, is that going to solve it? I know people will jump on my throat for me saying this, but quite frankly, what sort of men do we have in this country? What sort of sons and brothers and husbands, etc., etc., are we living with? Are we bringing up? Where is, when I was young, I studied in a Catholic school, but it has nothing to do with the religion of the school where you're studying. We were taught something called moral science. There is no value education anywhere in this country. It's all about marks. Students are, even at the student level, how many girls are harassed in school for their looks, for what they wear, for what they don't wear, etc., etc., etc. Women seem to have become like toys. No, use and throw, or say what you want with it, break it up. The brutality of violence against women is increasing. When Nirbhaya happened, the whole country was appalled at the sheer barbarism of it. Today with Kolkata, yes, people are appalled. But then next day we hear about something in UP, then we hear about something in Maharashtra, then maybe somewhere, something else in some other state. We seem to be getting, how do you say it? I mean, even our outrage seems to be just merely words. I'm very glad today that the Supreme Court has pulled up the West Bengal government and the laxity and the inefficiency, deliberate or not, of the West Bengal police. But the truth is that this is not just happening in West Bengal. I am not getting into the politics of it. Who should take responsibility in Bengal? Why wasn't the principal question? All of that the Supreme Court has done today. There's no point in my repeating it. But when you have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds being raped, when it takes 32 years for 100 girls to get justice in a POXO court, most of those women are now grandmothers.
Exactly.
What justice?
You're right, ma'am, because you're very right.
Delayed, justice denied.
You're right, and we'll just give those. But you're right there. We're just going to give that fact sheet of that case. It was a case that happened in 1992. It had shook the nation's conscience at that point of time because 100 girls from a very affluent school in Ajmer were exploited, some of them raped, and the men responsible for that, 6 of them were acquitted, were in fact convicted, I beg your pardon, today. And the women who've been witness in this case, some of them were 16, and I spoke to one of them who's a witness right now and has seen that whole conclusion of the case of 32 years, is a grandmother today. And that has been the snail's pace of justice. I want to bring in Talish Ray into this conversation. Talish Ray, the court today, the Supreme Court, scathing observations, and rightly so, when it came down to the, mishandling rather of the situation by the Kolkata police, the administration, the government, but also touched on a larger point, which was a committee, a task force, a 9-member task force, which should be put together especially for the safety of doctors at work. Do you think, that's the right move?
So far as the Honorable Supreme Court and in their wisdom as they dip this matter suo moto, I think I would like to point out a couple of things. First was the deep level of anguish and dissatisfaction that the Honorable judges expressed about the state in which things are there. And that comes out from the very, order. When you look at the order, it actually talks about how not just how procedural lapses have taken place, talks about the anguish in terms of the manner of graphic images that have been shared with disregard to the privacy of the victim that is involved. The court again and again talks about lack of institutional safety. In fact, that is a standout phase that is there. And in order to cover for that, it has not just appointed a high-level national task force, it has also given the mandate to the task force. It says that there must be an action plan, and that action plan must be under 2 heads. One is to prevent violence, especially gender-based violence, and the courts are very clear here when they're referring to medical professionals. They're referring to the cross spectrum across. They're quite, enlightened in terms of understanding that not everybody is a doctor. There's paramedical staff and infrastructure that is required with all the human resources that are within a medical institutional system. And then the second part of the action plan is about providing enforceable protocols for all those that work under medical services. What is actually more important here is the time period that has been provided. The courts pointed out that for such a task force, not just our various stakeholders that are at the highest level in terms of distinguished doctors themselves, but also various secretaries, including the Secretary of Health, has been made party to it, and that an interim report of this task force will be presented within 3 weeks, with a final report for 2 months, which is to give a sort of a timeline so that it doesn't keep pending. They also touched upon the fact that there are existing laws. It talks about, and it took the various state governments as well as the union government to task and asked them to file in an affidavit within a month's time to talk about things which involve safety of doctors and other medical professionals, including having CCTV on premises, having screening facilities for those that are entering, asking for the various the various mandates that have been given to organizations, including hospitals, under the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act of 2013, Section 19, and that will need to be presented to the court for the court to be able to look at that, and the court is going to hear the matter again within a short period of 2 days. But perhaps I think what is visible was the very first line that the honorable justices put in, saying how many more women must it take for something to be done about the situation, or for talking about basic values that are enshrined in the Constitution of equality, of safety. And they were, in that sense, alluding to the chilling effect that has come in, which is what Lalita ma'am referred to in terms of when we look at even the outrage also feels not so outraged anymore. It is almost like case after case that comes in.
You're right. The face keeps changing, and we outrage, and then we forget, and then we start all over again. Nirbhaya turns to Abhaya, and the Shakti Mill compound survivor turns into the Spanish tourist who got raped in Jharkhand. And that's that. But I want to bring Dr. Kalpana Nagpal, ENT surgeon, into all of this. Kalpana Nagpal, I just want to quote from what the court said today. That practically stating the last straw was what happened, and the nation cannot wait for another rape and murder, what Talishre also touched on, to bring in safety laws for medical professionals and doctors. The sheer fact, Dr. Nagpal, that now our committee has been set up, a 9-member task force, is it somewhat reassuring for doctors like you now?
Not fully as yet. Well, first of all, other than being an ENT surgeon, I'm also the president and founder of Women's Association of Otolaryngologists of India, which consists of 2,000 members. And there are a lot of juniors and residents as part of my association. And it's not just me voicing, so there are 2,000 voices behind me. So, well, thanks to the Supreme Court for bringing up this national task force. But I feel they should be not just a 9-member team. They should have several state task forces under the national task force. And each state will have several other members and include psychiatrists and leaders of various women associations, because women association leaders would know what exactly women concerns are and day-to-day minor incidents and everything. So this task force should be certainly much bigger. And now, there's more fear other than outrage amongst the doctors, fear amongst women and also parents sending their children to colleges and hospitals, etc. Now, more than this, the fear should be actually amongst the rapists and criminals that are going around. Now, we have a lot of perverts, amongst us. There are a lot of people with various personality disorders. These have to be, come to the limelight. They're not screened. And so we have to accept that we have such people in the society. And that is why these things will keep on going. And in order to prevent them, we will have to have 100% safety norms. So we have to ensure safety protocols at every institution, company, school, college, anything. So 100% safety means in which we need to deploy, more police, more bouncers, and take responsibilities in terms of, whether you're a nursing head or whether you're principal of a school or you're director of a hospital, and ensure more duty rooms and ensure more security personnel and conduct mock drills, several mock drills every day. And, today the DGHS was saying there should be a code violet. so that, you can do this mock drill every day in the hospital also. And this is all very much required because, we don't want a single rape happening anymore. And whatever we have come to know is also just the tip of the iceberg. Believe me, there are many more rapes happening around.
Yeah, this is just a reported number. You're right.
Yes, so it's just the tip of the iceberg. And that is why enhanced security is very much required. And so along with outrage, this fear is there. And this is going to be there for a long term. The reassurance will come in only when all the laws are strictly enforced. Why don't we follow Dubai or Qatar, where the punishment is very strict? They're hanged the next day. So why don't we have such law here? The law should be such that women can go around at any time of the day or night. So we have various women force working, even whether it's media or hospitals or anything. No, these cannot stop, right? There are a lot of anesthetists, a lot of gynecologists, a lot of people working for emergency, and similarly nursing shifts, etc. So this will continue. So enforcing law and punishment, and the punishment should never be delayed. Hanging or whatever be the punishment. In case of rape, of course, hanging or even removing the genitals, or strictly enforcing any other, punishment in terms of, like in case of molestation or domestic violence or any other violence, it should be within a short period, specified period. If it is rape, probably less than 4 days. Yes, preferably less than 24 hours, and any other violence within 1 month. So if the punishment is delayed, there will never be a fear amongst these criminals. So this is very much required, and ASAP.
All right, Ms. Barwankar, taking off from what the doctor said, India is a country where a rape happens every 17 minutes, and despite of that, and that's just reported rapes, the conviction rate is less than 27%, so it's appalling. Now, the doctor on the panel actually, where you go down and say that let's have really strict laws, let's look at Saudi, let's look at Iraq, whether it's chemical castration, hang them in 1 day, 1 day's time, also then has a flip side to it, because we saw that happen in multiple cases where you got the wrong person, or then the police goes into a hyperdrive to try and finish, or at least appear to finish investigation. So what's the answer? Because at least in India, we haven't seen capital punishment be the answer. We saw what happened with Nirbhaya, and after that, it's not that rape cases have come down, because there was capital punishment meted out.
So Dr. Nagpal's position of even justifying hanging or the very strong words which she has used only shows the desperation of the women of the country. But I must say, disappointed with the Supreme Court appointing another committee. I would have personally expected the Supreme Court to say that in India we have about 153 police constables per lakh of the population, while international standard is 220 constables. I would have expected Supreme Court to say that fill those 20% vacancies and bring Indian police at par with international norms, so that we can have proper security on the roads, and also we can provide high conviction rate to the society. I expected the Supreme Court also to say that as per the Law Commission report, 120th report, we should have 50 judges per million of population, while we have only 21. So in my opinion, we as government are taking very soft decisions of appointing committee after committee, instead of taking hard decision of bringing our judiciary and our police force, much flogged police force, which is working with less than 100 constables per lakh of the population. We are just appointing committees. So let's take some hard decision. And if a lady doctor is losing her patients, and a very well educated lady, which shows that if not in 1 day, 24 hours, 1 month, at least in a year we convict all these Nar-Bhakshi Danavs who are going around free from Badlapur to Kolkata.
But, Ms. Barwankar, you say that it's, that we need to increase our police force. They're working under a lot of pressure, but there's also a desperate need, and we've spoken about it so many times, but never really seen it happen, to sensitize our police force. Because if you look at each and every case, right from Nirbhaya to now, the spotlight has been on the police for mishandling it, or the politicization of police with what we call it. Either it's a delay in, getting the FIR down, or there are grave lapses right at the investigative level.
So investigation, an officer, yesterday I was talking to cyber crime unit of Mumbai. Yes. An officer is investigating 80 cases per year. Now you think what kind of justice he or she can do to a case of investigation? So I am repeating, let's take hard decision of increasing the workforce, increasing the judiciary. Yes. Both.
All right. Okay. Lalita Kumaram Mangalam, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I agree with this. The other thing that I found when I was chairperson of the NCW, that we just do not have enough forensic services in this country. You have rapes and murders and all of this violence against women throughout the country. If you go to slightly more remote areas, not just the main metro cities and the 2-tier and 3-tier cities, forensics are extremely poorly available. There are no kits. There is not enough whatever material you need to get the forensics done quickly, etc. So it needs to be a comprehensive reform. The number of police have to increase. They have to be better sensitized. They have to be allowed to act independently and not always under political pressure or political threats, or whatever words one want to use here. They have to be trained better in forensics. There have to be forensics available immediately and quickly, because let's not also forget that medically a lot of proof is lost as forensic testing is delayed. All of these need to be taken into consideration. The Supreme Court has done a good job today, but I think it's just, the beginning. A lot more needs to be done. The system needs to be vastly improved. And the system includes both, people and equipment and training and all of that is necessary. Along with that, we also need to educate the public. We need to talk to schools. We need to talk to parents, etc., about how to demand and see that their children, that their families, that the women of their families or their to talk to industry, to talk everywhere about the need for accountability for women's, by women I mean across the board, all ages, whether it's old women or younger women who are working or children, etc. The safety of women, we can't just talk about women who are being raped. And I don't mean it in any way against any of the very, very unfortunate rape victims that, they seem to be sort of mushrooming all over the country. I'm saying this very frankly, that there needs to be a systemic change.
You're right.
And the way we think about women's safety, and the way that we train and talk to and tolerate many of the things that seem to happen in everyday life where women are constantly humiliated and questioned. This has to stop.
But you're right.
Accountability has to be fixed at every level in the whole system.
But Talish, we're taking off from what Lalita Kumara Mangalam also said, because there needs to be a systematic change, and there needs to be a systematic change of mindsets as well. Because, let's just look at this, because what we do is we deify a Nirbhaya or an Abhaya in death, but where survivors are concerned, we completely ostracize them. And to give examples, you had the likes of a Bhavri Devi, Suzette Jordan, who broke ground by publicly coming out and speaking of what happened to them. What happened to them then? You ostracize them from society. Bhavri Devi still cannot enter her village and speak to people properly. And this was a case which happened all the way back in the 80s.
1997.
90s, I beg your pardon. And then you have Suzette Jordan, who openly came out and broke shackles and said, I don't want to be called the Park Street rape victim. And what happened to her? Constant abuse she faces day in and day out.
Yes, so we do have this thing where we try and push back women who go in from their narrative of being victims to survivors. And that pushback is actually very visible, because I was very interestingly watching the various news snippets that you were putting in right at the beginning, Preeti. And therefore, one can't take away not just from the various rape cases reported, but look at what the Hema Committee report has said. And look at the reaction that has come in from the Honorable Chief Minister. He said, we will consider the recommendations. Here's a justice who was appointed to look at film stars and film industry, women that work in film industry. There's been agitation, some very powerful women in cinema collective that came out from it. And look at exactly what happens there. There is, again, we shall see about that. So taking from what all the learned members have said prior, there is anger, but there's also the need for changing and breaking the shackle of patriarchy that exists at every level. It needs to start at the very base level and at what is known as an early stage intervention. Start from the schools, start with the respect, look at the curriculum, make it mandatory as a part of it. When we look at schools today, we have mandatory environmental regulation, but at the same time, children are being taught a different lesson all over. And at that point, I also want to point a finger here or put focus on the media that is being consumed. And I don't mean by news media, I'm talking about audiovisual media. I mean, look at the kind of content that is being created, wherein women are degraded, and it's almost normalized for it. So it is difficult for women to actually come out and say that it is creating a chilling effect. As professional women, as the court today recognized, medical professionals are extremely vulnerable. It didn't just take one particular instance. It went back and referred to the very horrific Aruna Shanbag case as well, which shocked the core of everybody. Every time you read that case, it has a triggering effect for most women. But the fact remains that every time that we are looking at changes, it has to be across board. It has to be at every level. There has to be a commitment, because let's recognize this. This is not violence against women. We have to recognize that we are in a state where there's a war against our women. We rage it against those that identify with spectrums outside of men. And I mean the gender of men. So it is a war that is there. And do we want to put our efforts on war footing? That remains to be seen. Because that war footing only comes on board when people come back to reclaim the streets, to protest, to have our doctors going through the indignity when we see them being, them coming out and saying, look, we are not going to do elective surgery. That hurts a doctor to say that they're all under an oath and they like to serve people. There is a certain element of vocation to that profession.
Right.
And yet it takes that drastic measure. So it is a war. And when are we going to have efforts on a war footing? That remains to be seen. And I think that's the urgency that the honorable justices today tried to capture when they gave in a line, when they expressed their anguish.
Well, let's hope, we build on that and not fall into an abyss till Nirbhaya or changed into Abhaya and Abhaya changes into something else. Dr. Kalpana Nagpal, you wanted to come in, and, the other question that I wanted to ask you. There was this, in 2019, the whole talk of the Healthcare Service Personnel and Clinical Establishment Bill, which would safeguard and make a law, for the safety of health professionals, of course. And at that point of time was put down by the Home Ministry, because can we actually make laws for each profession and the safety of each, of these professions? Do you think it's time now to do that? Maybe look for, and formulate a law when it comes down to health professionals in this country?
Oh, very much required. Violence against doctors has been going on time and again. There are a lot of emergency physicians and emergency doctors who are facing this on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes they get injured also. So, there are lots of stories from different hospitals. And this is very much required to be implemented, not just having a law in place. Yes. And also there must be different gates, gates of entry, whether to hostels or to the emergency or to the wards. There shouldn't be common entrances or common lifts for patients and doctors. It should be identity based. There are some hostels which have already implemented in the last 4 days, which I came to know through some other doctors, so that it's, it's a face recognition system. That's how you're allowed to enter. No other third party is allowed. Even parents are not allowed. So such kind of strict measures are required, So the patients and attendants will have a different entry, and they should be far from the main critical areas where we treat, far from the ICUs and operation theaters. Yes, they should not be seen anywhere close by. And also the weapon check, the metal check, very strictly implemented at every place. It's very important. So these rules and laws may be in place, but they have to be enforced. It's high time.
I appreciate all four ladies for joining us. Thank you, because I think we've had a very constructive debate where at least we've tried to figure out on what's the answer, because we're in neck deep in an epidemic when it comes down to violence against women, sexual assault, rape, and at least there's acceptance of that. What's the way ahead? Let's hope we bolster in from what the Supreme Court did today. I appreciate all four of you for joining us. Joining me now is eminent personality. She's a filmmaker. She was part of the protest. She sat in with the doctors in Kolkata. She's a citizen of West Bengal and very, very angry. Joining me is Aparna Sen. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. All right, joining me now is eminent citizen of Bengal, a filmmaker, and also a civil rights activist, Aparna Sen, joining us live from Kolkata. Ms. Sen, you've actively been part of the protest. May I ask you what made you join the protest? What was your trigger?
My trigger was what everybody else's was. Outrage. Outrage that a young doctor, anyone actually, who thinks that a workplace is safe, goes there in all confidence, trust, etc., in her workplace, in the safety of her workplace, and after 36 hours of work is brutally raped and murdered in the space that she thought safe.
Do you, because now, you know, we've seen a lot of people like you or practically all of Kolkata come onto the streets in solidarity, in protest. Do you see any hope for justice? Do you see that maybe truth will come out or justice would be delivered at least to the parents of this young 31-year-old doctor?
Yes, I'm glad that the case has been, you know, that the court has taken it on suo motu. I really see hope that something will be done there. I hope that the perpetrators of the crime will be found. But I don't know what you mean by justice, because there is a clamor for capital punishment. Now, I don't believe in capital punishment because I don't think that it deters crime in any way. And I'm not saying it. These are based on the researches of, you know, organizations like Amnesty International. It's been found that crime doesn't deter. Also, we can see it because, look, think of what happened at the time of Nirbhaya's rape and murder. 4 people were sentenced to death. 1 died in prison, but 4 people were sentenced. 3 of them were meted out capital punishment. Did that stop from the Nirbhayas that followed from being raped, murdered? Did it follow? It doesn't.
So, Ms. Sen, what would you think would be the appropriate punishment for something like this?
Look, that is not for me to say. That the Supreme Court in its wisdom will decide. But I personally believe in restorative justice, which we are very far from approaching even. Restorative justice is something that really demands a lot of clear-headed thinking. Restorative justice is for the society in general. Kill. And how many people in families rape? Can you kill them all? So many Adivasi women are raped. Just the other day, a minor was raped in Jharkhand. She was pregnant. She was, I think, 16. And can we stop these rapes by capital punishment? No. But I do think that this is not my area of specialty. Mm-hmm. This is not my area not the right person.
Ms. Sen, the court today has come down heavily on Mamata Banerjee's government. Do you see there was a mishandling of the entire case?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there was no way that one can defend the actions of the TMC government, because to start with, they should have immediately sacked the principal. They have been, from all accounts, sheltering the principal. Why? We all have questions that we don't have answers to. But we are waiting for the Supreme Court to, because they've taken matters in hand suo moto. Therefore, we are hoping that we will find the culprits. They will find the culprits through proper impartial investigation, and that, that justice will be done.
But Ms. Sen, it's also a time where there's a lot of misinformation that's floating about, keeping in mind with the same case. We've already gone through something, with the Sushant Singh Rajput case where there was so much misinformation. Some of it, many thought who were putting it out there in public domain was for the good, but these were prominent people just inadvertently spreading misinformation. Do you see that also as a huge issue?
What has happened is that people are so, at the moment, so outraged. People are, they are trying to get as much information as they can, but the information that we're getting, the narratives that we're getting from various, they say students, doctors themselves, nurses, the medical staff of RG Kaur, but the problem is that no one knows, no one can verify these statements, all these narratives. The whole time we are getting forwards of videos, of messages, of audio messages. God knows. I mean, one doesn't know what to make of it. First of all, one hears that the victim's pelvic girdle was broken. Then one hears that, no, in the autopsy, it shows that the pelvic girdle wasn't broken. There were no fractures. Now, what does one say? Why is all this misinformation being, carried on? I don't know why. I have frankly stopped looking at these forwards now.
Ms. Sen, do you also see...
There's no point.
Right. So do you also see while, there's this whole organic protest, the likes of you joining in, stunned with what's happened in your city, which strangely just till last year by the NCRB was adjudged as one of the safest cities in India. So the irony of all of that, in the background. But, what do you make of it in terms of so many loopholes? The Kolkata police not coming in at the right time, the principal being taken away only to be reinstated in a different college. How do you look at all of this? And then with all of it, a heady mix of politics.
Yes, all the political parties are trying to get political mileage out of this one incident. Unfortunately, the Trinamool Congress has, I think, backed itself into a pretty, messy corner. Because I don't know how they will extricate themselves from this, because all the things that they've done so far should not have been done. I mean, nobody has any doubts about that. There are no two opinions about that. That should have been done. Also, one comes to a bigger picture, because now what is at question, as Justice Chandrachud rightly pointed out, is the safety of doctors in their workspace. That has to be ensured. That's very, very important. Now, people are clamoring the whole time for capital punishment. But I don't think that's a solution, frankly. I mean, it's been proved over and over again that it doesn't deter crime. As I said before, after the Nirbhaya case, 4 people were sentenced to death, 1 died in prison, 3 people were executed. But has it stopped any of these rapes? It doesn't work that way. What has to change, is the patriarchal mindset. And that has to change actually from families, from schools. Because, the most number of rapes happen within families. Uncles, cousins, all the time, that sort of thing happens. But are they reported even? Nothing happens. As I said, the patriarchal mindset has to change, and it has to start with schools. I think it's very important.
Mamata Banerjee has always been seen, especially by the women of West Bengal, as their own. Do you see it's her moment of reckoning? Have you been a supporter of Mamata Banerjee and now maybe come full circle?
No, I have not been a supporter of Mamata Banerjee or any other political party, as I have said over and over again, my politics has always been issue-based. Just like I was a signatory to an open letter to the Prime Minister Modi, about lynchings all over India. Just the same way, I have written more than one letter, open letter, to the CM Mamata Banerjee, protesting about various wrongs that the TMC had done. So I have never been a supporter of any political party. I stay away from political color, just so that I don't have to, do this, my party right or wrong. I can criticize when I feel that something is wrong. I can praise where something is praiseworthy.
Right.
So I have never been involved with any political party.
Just final
But
question
Mamata
for somebody
Banerjee
who's watched Mamata Banerjee, Ms. Sen, because you come from her state and she governs your state. Do you see that maybe the ground beneath her feet is shifting, considering the kind of backlash she's getting, and she's supposed to be a woman's chief minister? Women of West Bengal love her.
Women of West Bengal love her because of various schemes that she undertook, where there's been money in the bank of Lokhi Bhandar or something. I'm not quite familiar with the names, yes. But the point is that the women of West Bengal cannot love her if she cannot protect the women of West Bengal. They can't continue to love her. But, I'm speaking for myself and I'm speaking for the urban educated elite. I mean, middle class, urban educated middle class. I don't know what exactly is happening in the villages. How do they feel about it? I know that, this outrage, this wave of protest has spread outside Kolkata. It has spread to other cities in India. It has even spread to places, in the West, abroad. People have written songs about this, protesting against this dastardly act. But I'm not the right person. This is not my area of expertise that I can tell you right away whether the ground under her feet has been shaken. Look, if Mamata Banerjee were to resign, let's see what would happen. Has anyone thought that through? I mean, I would be happy to see her resign if she behaves like this. That's not the point. Mamata Banerjee is not the point. The point is, if Mamata Banerjee goes, the TMC goes, India alliance will lose a very big ally. So our opposition will not remain as powerful as it presently is. That's one. Two is after, Mamata Banerjee goes away, what happens next? Will there be another election, or will there be precedence rule with a BJP-led government coming in? I don't think the people of West Bengal are terribly keen on BJP. But if it's a choice between Mamata and BJP, I don't know. They may choose BJP. That only an election will tell. But, when there is an election, if there is an election, then Mamata Banerjee might again come to power. Then what do you do? Okay. It's a very messy situation, Preeti. Very messy.
Well, all right. The election now is still, at least 2 years from now. So politically, it's a different ballgame altogether. But appreciate you joining us, Ms. Sen. And with what you said, that you're now maybe hopeful that, we'll see some movement in a positive direction where, it might sound as rhetorical, but justice would be delivered to this young 31-year-old. Appreciate you joining us, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, an election might not be close, but perception-wise, this is possibly the lowest that Mamata Banerjee has seen. We're going to keep the spotlight firmly on Kolkata, protests still raging on, as well as what's going on now in Maharashtra, Badlapur. Massive protests in Maharashtra as well, at the back of 2 toddlers getting raped by a janitor in their school.